Yes. No animals were harmed in the making of this episode.
You haven't even tried it. If you just tried
Harming
it once.
her? Oh, I have.
No, like sleeping her off the desk. That doesn't harm anybody.
No, doesn't harm a soul. So we have, I always make fun of other shows for saying, we have a very special guest today. But it's an interesting storyline because, Carrie, your son goes to a therapeutic riding organization called Saddle Up Nashville. And we have the pleasure of talking to Thom Bosse because you reached out and said, I think this is going to be a great topic. Why don't you talk a little bit about what made you pick this one for the show?
So my son is on the autism spectrum, like really high functioning, but had some muscle instability and other stuff. And one of the things that he loved doing was horseback riding and scuba. We did a couple different things, like outside of the regular kind of occupational therapy things. But we moved from Florida to Tennessee 4 years ago, and I was really worried that some of those things would kind of fall by the wayside. You can't really, it's hard to scuba in Tennessee compared to Florida. But there is one of the leading therapeutic riding places right here in Nashville. And I'm so excited when I discovered it. So he's been there now for 4 years, and it makes such a difference in his development. And it's just done phenomenal things for him. And I know for a lot of other kids as well. So Saddle Up Nashville helps children and others with developmental challenges to overcome them through like horse related activities. So they do riding, and they have some other fun things that they do. Like Max did a couple of other shows, and they tack the horses, groom the horses, all kinds of really fun things. So anyway, it's done things that I wouldn't have thought just riding a horse could do. It's given him independence and confidence, as well as communication skills, social skills, and the physical benefits as well. So I wanted to talk about it.
We have the pleasure of talking to Thom Bosse, who now is just some dad who just has some kid who succeeded at the thing. But he was the interim boss there for a little bit. He was helping run it, helping kind of develop it and grow it. So we got a lot of questions for Thom Bosse as well. Stick around.
Welcome to the Backpack Show with your hosts, Chris Brogan and Carrie Gargone. Boom shakalaka!
I love seeing Santa like in the show opener.
Seeing Santa in that show.
So good.
Santa Rick.
So good. We are sponsored by StreamYard. If you want to make your own show, just bring your own Santa. There you go.
That's exactly true. Sponsored by StreamYard. Go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Make your own show. This is super easy software to use. You can't have better software than that. Hey, want to buy an online domain? .online, in fact. You can get a .online domain for 99 cents. Use the code Chris, all caps, at checkout, and you're in. So I got the Backpack Show .online for 99 cents. Come get some. We are going to grab our new friend Thom Bosse and talk a little bit about, hey Leslie, and talk all about what's going on at Saddle Up. We'll talk a little bit about his son Connor and how that program came to be. Welcome, Thom Bosse. Good to see you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris and Carrie. We appreciate the effort or the time to talk about Saddle Up a little bit and the great things that program does.
Well, you've been involved with Saddle Up for a long time, so we are thrilled to have you.
Thanks. We've spent some time.
Connor had how many years there? What was this?
We spent 15 years there with Connor riding at Saddle Up.
Wow. We got a little bite of this YouTube video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, because that would be weird. You could just go watch it yourself. But let's watch this tiny bit together, and let's just get a bite in. I think I cued it in a reasonably not bad spot. Oh, and I made it quiet because,
Yeah, we got to be able to hear it. You'll have to share it again.
Mike. Oh, but then don't even say a bad word.
This is Connor's second to last riding session today.
1, 2, 3.
Easy.
Lean forward.
It is very bittersweet to know that this is going to be towards the end. Okay, Connor, we're ready. What are you going to say?
Walk on.
Good. Oh, I will miss him terribly when I think about that.
Connor has been at Saddle Up for a total of 15 years. So when Connor first began riding, he was not speaking. He was in a postural walker.
I think we were just hoping for anything to help improve anything that he was doing, his stability, his walking.
And watching him out there the first couple of lessons, it was painful. He had very little neck strength or core body strength. Watching him on that horse, even with 3 people supporting him, was like watching a rag doll.
In the very beginning, we always teach them to just use voice commands. And for Connor, that was very hard.
What the horse's movement provides is that good postural support, which is so necessary for speech production.
And I kid you not, within about 4 months of riding at Saddle Up, my son went from saying nothing to saying, "Mom, go home." I can only really attribute it to the core strength that he gained on that particular horse.
Wow. Mom, go home. Amazing. So you're muted, Chris.
I was just saying I did the same thing in kindergarten. I would just like say to my mom, we're good here. Thank you. You can go home now. I'll see you later, mother. But that's, I mean, even in just that minute or so, we see the start and the edge of a transformation that's bigger than I imagine you could have predicted.
We had any hope, anything we could come up with seeing what we could do to work with Connor and to have him have the availability to live a somewhat normal life. And I think as you guys hear, and when you find out that you're pregnant, your wife's pregnant, and you find out you have a child with a disability, you're just looking for a light at the end of the tunnel. And Saddle Up was that light at the end of the tunnel for us. It really was.
You never like to think about putting them in any kind of a box or limiting their choices in life, and that sort of thing. And so to find that much joy and so much capability and independence so quickly. I mean, just as a parent, there's no greater feeling.
You're right.
Go home. Go home.
Well, he says a heck of a lot more now. So, I mean, sometimes we wish we could go back to just the go home thing. But no, this was a program that is just committed to helping. I mean, Connor's just a small section of what that program is all about. And the kids that it helps, we were fortunate enough to be able to find it, such as yourself, and be able to get, committed people in a program that made these kids and give them that can-do attitude. The time that I've spent out there, I never saw one child decide that they could not do something where we as adults think that, oh, it's so hard, we can't do this. But if you watch what these kids do and the positivity that they exude, there's nothing that these kids can't accomplish, even though they have a disability. We just have to give them the opportunity in the avenue to do that. And Saddle Up is a way to do that. And we were, again, I'm so fortunate to be able to be part of it. I mean, we've done things from volunteering. My wife was president of the board for a while. I had the opportunity to help out with as being the interim executive director for a while when they were searching for a new one. And we were just very lucky. I can't begin to tell you the thankfulness that we have for a program such as Saddle Up.
When I looked through the program, and like Carrie knows about it, front row, she's got her kid in it. Correct. When I think about these programs, I always have that sort of feeling like, oh, good for them. My son's highly functioning on the autism spectrum, and he would have he'd bump into a lot of the same things. He had a lot of challenges, younger especially, and I could tell you that hey, my dad's here. Who knew? I could tell you that I think there's a lot of people that maybe get the idea wrong, Thom. Where I'm going at is I bet they think, oh, good for those kids. But there's a lot of training and a lot of education and a lot that they can accomplish and move through in that experience. Do you want to talk just a tiny little bit about that and the sort of span of people that can be helped in these sorts of programs?
Wow. I mean, the span of kids that this program services is exorbitant. I mean, it's you can't count it on one hand. The disability spectrum that these guys deal with, it's all part of the webpage. They explain it specifically. A lot of the kids aren't turned away. They're not turned away because they can't pay. There is a financial aid system that helps people out in being able to pay for this. It's not exorbitantly expensive. These people work extensively to help these kids out in getting these things taken care of. I mean, I've spent 15 years teaching special education, and I can't tell you there's not one kid I don't think that this program couldn't have benefited, no matter what their disability was. I mean, there's kids that are in wheelchairs, there's kids that are in walkers, there's kids that, I mean, are very capable bodied there. Like you said, there's the kids on the autism spectrum. We've got Down syndrome kids. You've got every disability you could think of. This program services, and they find a way to do it. And that's the most exciting part of it all, that these people are committing to finding a way to help these kids.
It's actually, you mentioned the financial aid. It's actually quite a lot more expensive to put on each lesson than anybody gets charged. Like, there's subsidies basically because people support Saddle Up. Otherwise, each lesson would just be too much money for probably anybody.
Correct. There is a financial aid factor to this. And they make sure that it through our donations. There's a development program. There's 2 very committed people in the development that look for grants. And hey, we have tons of very, like I said, very generous people in the Nashville area that help support this because they see the value of this program. And it just doesn't stop there. I mean, there's our program director that writes and develops these. There's the volunteer coordinators. There's the equine managers. There's the barn manager. There's the property manager. I mean, there is a full team of people out there that make this program run. A lot of it's behind the scenes. You've got volunteers. I mean, it's phenomenal, the amount of volunteers. There's well over 400 volunteers that come out and get involved in that program to help these kids get something that helps their disability, to help them become a better person, to help their disabilities become easier to deal with. And it gives some reprieve to the parents. It really does. There's a time that you sit there and you watch your child to get to do something that other typical children do. And it's just an excitement to see them be successful at it, no matter how hard they try or how difficult it is for them.
If you are differently passionate than I am, you can even sponsor a barn cat.
You know, they'll actually ride out of their way, like my kid will anyway, to go pet the barn cats. It's like a whole other thing. It's a sideshow. It's another attraction.
We've got a couple of them. When I was in the office, they're not shy to come in and visit or try to jump up on your lap and sit and visit for a little while. So yeah, we have a couple inside and outside cats that eventually are just as therapeutic as the horses are for some of the kids.
They really are. And it can be, that's something that they look forward to as much as the horses, as much as seeing their friends there, because they make friends a lot of times in the groups they ride in. So it's good in all sorts of ways, for all sorts of things.
Now, you mentioned you did special education outside of this project as well, but for some amount of time. Are you still in that space? What are you doing with your time when you're not, making the world better through horses and the people that take care of them?
Oh, I retired about 4 years ago. And that was the time when Connor was a junior in high school, and he became very active in his stuff in school. He was he was the manager of the basketball team. He was on the bowling team. He was still riding and still doing therapies. And it gave me the opportunity to be able to get him to where he needs to be. So I guess there was always a mom taxi. Now that was a dad taxi. That was me. It was great. I had the time to spend with him. I got him to all his sporting events. All of his things that he was involved with in Saddle Up, to therapies, to golf lessons, to Special Olympics golf tournaments, to, bowling, to basketball managing. And now his first 2 years at Vanderbilt in a great program down there called Next Steps.
Saw that little visual of him being excited at some of the new things coming up in his future as well. That was big.
Oh, that made me cry. That part of the video where you get spoiler alert. There's a part that's going to make you cry.
Yeah. So we're going to take a little minute or so. What's this? We appreciate
your mom. Chris's mom came by. Said, we appreciate your program. After watching 14 seasons of Heartland, we understand the effort it takes.
Oh, I see. Carrie, you had a couple of videos that you provided of Max up and riding on the horses. So I'm going to show those real quick.
Yay. Excited.
Wow.
So excited. He has to put the effort in, to ride independently and everything like that. Some kids can, other kids aren't quite there yet. But we told him, listen, you can ride independently, but you got to like put your butt in and put your tummy in and put some effort into it. It's not just sitting. It's actually, that's what does all the good work for him. It's having to hold it together.
Core strength and all that.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, though, a lot of times, and I didn't understand this either, with steering these horses, a lot of it's just not done with the reins, but it's done with the pressure that your legs put into it, squeezing the horse to right and left and these kind of things. And that's what made, I think, such a great aspect for Connor, because he was hypotonic in his trunk, which means he had very poor muscle control. And so that really strengthens his core, like Carrie, you talked about with Max. And it improved his posture, it improved his walking. I mean, we never thought he would ever walk on his own independently. I mean, he spent the first 5 years or 6 years in a postural walker. And at that program, in the video they show, and my wife talks about it, at the Super Show, he won a ribbon. And much to lots of us, we sat there when his name got called, and we thought he was just going to scoot on over. Or he said he'd jump in he'd sit on the back of it and ride it out different places because it was on wheels. Next thing you know, we looked over, and here's this kid walking across the concrete to get his ribbon, and he walked right out of that postural walker. And that's one of the last few times he ever really needed it to actual walk on his own. So miracles are there. And that place, to me, if you don't believe in them, come and spend some time at Saddle Up and you will see miracles.
I'm going to show one little more video, and then we're going to take a quick break for some ads, and then we're going to come right back with Thom Bosse. So here you go.
So they're telling him, like, that's how they all are. So they're watching your form all the time. And I had to teach Max, like, where your toes goes, your nose goes. So if you want to fall off this horse, get lazy.
Oh, that's a good lesson. Where your toes goes, your nose goes.
So excited. That's my baby, everybody.
Yes. So, hey, do you like a good old-fashioned podcast? We sure do. We're on podcasting platforms everywhere because of Castos.com. What a great podcast host. Woo! Put your P's in their pod. Go to Castos.com and get yourself set up. You ever want to search for something like Saddle Up Nashville because you forgot if it was .org, .net, or .com? Go to presearch.com. You can look at a really cool search engine that's not Google that lets you look and find the cool stuff. I've been using it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And
You have.
It's been really exciting, and I really enjoy it. I like everything from the fact that there's a dark mode to the fact that I get different results and sometimes go deeper into the web than you do.
I just like the story behind it, because the founder of Presearch started it because Google did something to the algorithm, and then they manually deprioritized a whole bunch of local shop owners' sites in different towns because Google had like a competing offering that, like Google Shop or something, to feature local businesses, and it buried all these local businesses that were ranking. And so Colin Pape said, forget this, I'm going to start my own search engine because that is just patently unfair. So that's where Presearch comes from, which I love.
Presearch.com. Let's grab ourselves one extra Thom Bosse. There you are. So we also acquired through sources a video about a gentleman in his the Independence High graphics here. So I'm just going to throw the volume up.
It was on this night that Connor Bosse, a special needs student at Heritage, took to court for his first game ever.
I've had the privilege of working with Connor Bosse for 2 years. He's been the manager here for 3. He's really just had a major impact on my life. He's a kid that he's so well put together. He's so thoughtful. He's so dependable. But the main thing he really does is he's more part of this team than any other player. He really just has a huge impact on what we do on the court. The guys, we always say we're a family, and he truly is one of the brothers.
Connor went on to score 3 baskets during the game and had the crowd's attention every second he was on the court.
Connor's very loved here at Heritage Middle School. The students look up to him. The students include him in everything. In the classroom, Connor has peer buddies that work with him, and they're always eager to help out. He makes everybody smile. He makes my job easy. He's never in a bad mood. He always has a smile on his face, which makes me a better person, makes me smile because he's always smiling. He has touched my heart this last couple of years working with him. Anybody that's ever met Connor Bosse knows what kind of person he is inside and out. He is always smiling. He's always he's at school every day. He's eager to learn. When he had this opportunity to play, we've been down to the gym every day this week practicing shooting, and every time he made a basket, he would just go crazy. So this is a great opportunity the coaches have given him to play. He's at practice every day, and every day after school, he's like, Miss Dawn, I'm not riding the bus home. I'm going to practice. And I said, okay, Connor, okay. Connor's my hero. Connor's my hero.
Wow, it's like she was just waiting for the chance to talk about him. She had it all saved up.
That was another fantastic time in his life. I mean, those people were great. The school system was fantastic for him and what he was able to get to be able to participate in and the inclusion that they put in him or put with him. So we've been very fortunate. We've been very, very lucky, and we count our blessings every day on what we've been able to do and the people we've been able to meet, the organizations we've been able to be part of, and the services that we've been able to find. So, I mean,
without Saddle Up, do you think he'd have made it there to playing basketball?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think the therapies that he went through, the speech, the occupational, the physical therapy, finding Saddle Up and being able to ride, I think this was, like we talked about it, I mean, this was the light at the end of the tunnel. This was the organization that I guess put us over the top and really helped him achieve the things that he needed to do and becoming independent, a little bit more independent, becoming more mobile, just becoming more committed to knowing what he can do and really thinking he can do something. There's not a whole lot of things that you tell him he can't do because he'll prove you wrong. And that's the exciting part of it. And I think Saddle Up was one of those organizations that helped us do that or helped him decide that that's something he was able to accomplish.
But how do you make this a success? So everybody, I think, can see the passion and the vision behind it and the desire to help. But, boarding horses is expensive, and trading them, and also having people, volunteers or somebody to help with people who aren't physically able to hold themselves on the horse all the time. There's just a lot of manpower and a lot of horsepower that's necessary. Yeah. So how did you make this happen? How did Saddle Up make it happen?
It's not so much me, it's them. This whole organization, the people that started it, the instructors that held this thing together at the beginning, Lynn Evans and some of those people, that Sarah Ingram, that was the starter of the brainchild of this worked with this program. They're just committed people. I mean, and people do it financially. Like I said, this is such a philanthropic city, and they see the value to it. It's organizations and the development of finding grants, and it's phenomenal what these people, the commitment that the people do in helping find, I guess, the funding and the endowments and the matching gifts and the money. It's phenomenal. The programs and the events that they put on. I mean, we have Music City Grand Prix. We have a Chuckers for Charity. We have Hoofbeats and Heroes. There's a lot of big programs that people can actually help and get involved with, or they can just make donations to. I mean, it takes a lot to operate that program, and I learned it from budget-wise exactly what that was. And the people are committed. You see normal people that are yearly or many years, tens of years, have given their resources to help these kids.
And it's not just money. I mean, there's volunteers that come and learn how to work with the horses, how to take care of them in the stalls, how to do all sorts of things. And then obviously the office and admin stuff. So there's a lot that goes into that. How do you recruit the right kinds of volunteers?
It's a lot of it's word of mouth. And I think social media has helped out a lot. People have seen us. From the Facebooks to the Twitters to the Instagrams. I mean, they see what's out there. But a lot of it's word of mouth. A lot of companies give credit to their people to come out and do volunteer work. Organizations come out and help out. We have a fantastic volunteer coordinator, Sally, and Help Cat. They do a lot with running volunteer training programs. I mean, these guys spend numerous hours making sure that they're resourcing and finding people and answering inquiries to what could we do to help? How do we need to go about this? Making sure that enough people are on the programs. It's just people, I think once you go to a place like this, if you just need to tour it, you're hooked. You just become hooked. It just sucks you in so heavily that you can't walk away and not continue to think about it. And what can I do to help?
Now you also need horses. So how do you get horses for therapy horses, and what makes a good therapy horse?
Well, we've got a fantastic program director and equine manager that does a lot with searching the realms. And we have a lot of people in the horse community that have their ears down to the, ears to the road here, I guess, a little bit. And they do a lot of inquiring. We do a lot of leasing. People donate a lot of horses when they can't either do polo or hunter jumper or barrel racing. We have a lot of horses that do this that are pretty well even tempered, because a horse has got to be pretty well even tempered to have a kid who's unbalanced, sitting on their back, throwing a basketball, driving over or walking through noodles. I mean, being painted, being hair clipped. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that these horses go through, and it takes a lot for them. They go through a 90-day training program that our equine manager runs. And to qualify them, they get vet checked. So there's a whole lot to it. But I mean, if people have horses that they'd like to donate, that they wouldn't have, that they could always get back, that they think that might do well in helping out, give Saddle Up a call. They could certainly use them to try to get back to full strength. We're in need of, or the program's in need of some horses to be able to start to run the program back at full strength after COVID come fall. At least it was when I was there, when I finished up the beginning of June before the new executive director came on board. But I think they're always looking for horses and donations for horses.
It does take a special kind of horse, because sometimes the kids' behavior can be unpredictable depending on the nature of, their challenges. Sometimes their voice is really loud or really quiet in intervals, and and sometimes there's movement, voluntary or involuntary. So you need a good tempered horse, and it's really amazing to see how many you already have trained. And my son loves them all. He won't pick a favorite. I keep asking him his favorite, and he's like, I don't have one. Like I'm trying to trick him or something.
No, they like them all. They'll ride them all. I don't know. Connor's probably ridden 8 or 10 horses that in his 15 years that have been there, and he can name them all. I can't, but he can name them all, and he can tell you everything about what they look like and how good or how bad they were. I mean, these kids become attached, and they like every kid there. They say it's their horse, and yet it's every other kid rides it. It's their horse.
We have the trading cards.
There you go. That pretty much settles that one
too. So I mean, there's a horse sponsorship that you can do for them too.
Hey, guess what I just noticed?
Hey, Chris, buddy. Feline invasion coming your way. Hit the floor, man. Hit the floor.
What a perfect time to do this thing.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
You have
what
to
I'm
pick
going to
your
give it to
mom.
I was just going to say, I'm going to give it to my mom. They just had their wedding anniversary yesterday, so that was nice. They're, I don't know. I don't remember how many they've had. More than my age. That's how many. So anyway, happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. And there you go, your person of the day. So now you get an apple. You just have to go to the store, pick up the apple, wash it, because Carrie tells you to. There we go. So now, Thom, Bosse, we're at this part of the show where we ask one question to every guest we've ever had. What goes in your backpack? Now, this could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. Carrie, what's a good physical thing someone could put in a backpack?
Ooh, extra set of teeth.
An extra set of teeth.
DJ Cumberbund.
If you're around horses, what's maybe something metaphorical someone could add to a backpack?
I think kindness.
That's a good one. Kindness is good.
Yeah.
Thom, Bosse, what are you going to add to our backpack to make us more successful in the next couple of years?
Well, you know what? I came across something from a quote from I found it just reading through. It's called Linda's Kitchen is where it came out of. And it says, sometimes angels are disguised as kids with special needs to teach us how to be better people. And I kind of read that every morning just to make sure that my day is going to stay in a can-do attitude and with some positivity. So that's what I kind of take a look at, and I have it posted a couple different places, but it's just something that I read and kind of digest.
That's beautiful.
I love that one. That made me think of one of our past guests, Colette from Colette's Cookies.
Oh, yes.
she deals with Downs, and she went looking for a job because she said, I want to do a job. I want to do something like all my friends are doing, and nobody would hire her. So
They kept saying, "You're not a good fit." They kept saying,
Yeah. So she said, well, you know what? I'm going to start my own company, and then I'm going to hire myself. And so she started a bakery in Boston, and she's kicking butt.
And she's got a nonprofit where she teaches leadership skills to others with challenges and disabilities so that they too can become independent. She's
so amazing. I like your
amazing.
quote, Thom Bosse. Thank you for throwing that in the backpack.
Thank you.
So
and everybody's saying happy anniversary to Chris's parents.
They should. So let me say one thing is that my aunt still has a stable. She used to do a lot of horse stuff with dressage, with the little prancy dancy horses and all that sort of a thing. And my grandmother loved the horses. None of the horses loved my grandmother. They were all incredibly not into her. And so my grandmother had a habit of pointing a lot. And so you're going to imagine what a bunch of horses are going to do with a finger sticking out like that.
Ouch.
True story, but